Welcome to Reels Like the First Time, formerly You've Never Seen It, where the mission is still the same, but the name got a little bit of a tweak. I'm your host, Allison Salamone, and joining me today to talk about the 2020 movie, film, question mark, Money Plane, is co-host of the Binge Boys podcast with Hal Rudnick and Lon Harris. He's a writer for ScreenJunkies.la. So, some more news and insider. We are having a big welcome back to the one and only Lon Harris. Hello, Lon.
It's great to be. It's really like the first time. It feels like the first time again because it's a new title, it's a new show. Is that Foreigner?
Starting
That's
fresh.
A Foreigner song, right?
Is it? I'm not sure.
You don't know your own podcast? You don't know the reference? Yeah,
I know
it's
the
a
song,
Foreigner
but I don't
song.
know who sings
It feels like the first time. It's Foreigner. I'm 99% sure it's Foreigner, folks.
It is Foreigner. I just Googled it because we are nothing but professional around here.
Sure, yeah.
That's how we roll.
I think they did More Than a Feeling also. Great band, Foreigner.
Great band. I do love More Than a Feeling.
Have you considered a podcast about the band Foreigner? Have you thought about that?
No, but I think we might be onto something.
Next time.
I a few episodes back, I had the movie guys on, good old Paul Preston and Adam Witt, when we talked about American Graffiti and our little group chat. Right after that, before we had started recording, I told them that we had to move dates around because I had tickets to the Bruce Springsteen concert here in Orlando, so I wasn't able to record on the day we were planning to. And now that's turned into a whole Bruce Springsteen stands group chat between myself and Paul, and Adam's just in the background. But the conversation has come up of starting a Bruce Springsteen podcast.
Oh, of course. There must be. I bet that's a whole subgenre.
There has to be. There's a podcast for everything these days.
There's definitely I don't know. I was trying to come up with off the top of my head a good name for a Bruce Springsteen podcast, but I couldn't get there. I was like the Atlantic City, Nebraska, Chicken Man. I was running through them as quickly as I can, but
the Born to Run podcast. But then it sounds like I'm learning how to run.
I grew up in Philly and D.C., so in the 80s.
Sure,
so, like I knew all those songs. But there was a lot of Springsteen in the air.
Prime time to be living in those glory days.
Born in the USA. It was like I was a kid in Philadelphia when that hit.
Perfect. Perfection. What a time to be alive.
Intense, yeah.
Well, welcome back. I'm so excited to have you with me again. Sure. The first time you were on the show was back during audio only with Zodiac.
That's right. Yes, I had totally. I was doing that thing where I was like, "Oh, sure." The last time I was on your podcast, a fine episode it was. What a good time we talked about that movie that I'm sure I enjoyed.
That one movie you watched for the first time.
I do. To be fair, like that, it's not that your podcast is not memorable, but a lot. You do enough of them, and you start to like. And they're always about movies. People don't invite me on podcasts to talk about string theory. With good cause, because it would be a terrible podcast. But so yeah, like you were talking about the movie guys. Like I just did their show about Frantic. I did the Ford Fiesta podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, like a lot of movies have been talked about by me on a lot of shows.
But this movie that we're talking about today is. You have now become literally every single person, like any chat that I'm in or like talking with friends where for whatever reason a Money Plane quote gets thrown out. I'm like, oh, I still haven't seen it. And they go, you got to do it with Lon. Like not do it with Lon. That would, I don't know if my husband would appreciate that.
Talk about money. Talk about money.
Talk about Money Plane.
They say personal branding is very important, and I take that seriously. And I thought, what better personal brand than guy who loves this absolute trash B-movie, direct-to-VOD nonsense. Money Plane.
It is the most... I went in completely blind. All I knew was from looking at the poster.
I don't think anybody goes into Money Plane any other way. Nobody's hyping it up for anybody else. Everybody who's watching it is like, what's this thing?
What is this
it's a Money Plane.
The lines that are in this movie. But, like, when I knew that you had, like, wrestler Edge in it and
Mhm.
or as he goes by in this in, the credits, Adam Copeland.
Adam Copeland
And
in
I
there,
knew
yes.
and I knew Kelsey Grammer. I had no idea who directed it. I had no idea who else was in it, what it
Several
was about.
Lawrences, yeah.
So, all the Lawrences.
Lots of Lawrence. Surprising. They keep coming up with new Lawrences, and you're like, wait, surely that's all the Lawrences there are. And then it'll be like another guy. Be like,
Surely there's not
how could there
the
be
only
this
one.
many Lawrences? And how could I have only heard of one Lawrence before now? Like, that's the crazy thing. It's not that there's so many Lawrences. It's that we only thought there was one Lawrence for all this
Well, there
time.
was only one that mattered for a while.
Joey
Blossom
Lawrence,
himself.
Blossom star Joey Lawrence of Whoa fame. You have to be a
Whoa.
certain age. You're old enough, I'm assuming, because you said it along with me. Not because,
Sure, yeah.
You have to be a certain age to remember, but that took over the nation for like a year. The Joey Lawrence saying "whoa" from Blossom. That was his gimmick. But yeah, I guess two brothers, I believe. And they all, the three of them, formed a creative triumvirate that brought us Money Plane. And they're all in it.
And it was
a
choice. They're all in it. That was
I gotta say this before, like, my big thing about Money Plane. I think it's hilarious to joke about.
Sure.
I really enjoy, and there are elements of it, but I think that it really comes down to, you can't make a B movie, you can't make a camp classic, you can't make that kind of thing on purpose. You can't go in and like, I'm going to do a mystery science theater kind of movie. I'm going to do like a trash cinema. Those have to be accidental. That's the charm. It's these trying their best, and this is what they came up with. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but that's part of what makes cult cinema, this kind of midnight movie, B movie, so fun. Is it has to be sincere. And there are moments in Money Plane where you do feel like people are trying their best, and it's incredibly charming and funny and hilarious. And I think that Kelsey Grammer is killing it throughout. Like, he's brilliant. That's what I really love the most. And I was making fun of the Kelsey Grammer stuff when it was just a clip before I'd even seen the movie.
Right.
So, like, a lot of this wasn't even about the movie Money Plane. It was literally just about this performance, and it's so funny and it's so over the top. And he obviously knows he's in this garbage movie that he shot clearly in a day. All of Kelsey Grammer's in one location. The camera's only ever on him. Like, very briefly, there are other characters in the scene with him. He's almost always by himself. A lot of it is just a laptop. Like, he zooms into the movie a couple times. It's obvious they had him for a day and a half, 2 days, and he just came in and
it was like, here's your cameo of Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah,
like, they paid for him on like
I'm the big bad boss man. Okay, and give me my gun, and he just like went for it, and it's awesome. That stuff's great.
Rumble.
Right, and that's great because he's not joking. He's doing his best. You hired Kelsey Grammer. He's going to give you a Kelsey Grammer performance, and that's perfect and amazing, and I love that. But there are, at some point while they were making this, maybe it was right at the beginning, I don't know, the Lawrences figured out, oh, this movie sucks. Like, we're not good at this. Like, maybe they knew from the very beginning. I don't want to cast aspersions. Maybe the Lawrences went in, they were like, this is going to suck. We should make it into a big joke. But I feel like it was at some point during the process. Like, this feels like it started off being a serious movie about the Money Plane. And then at some point they were like, wait a minute, this is bad. So let's make it like we're in on the joke. And all that stuff is I don't like. And it is hacky and sometimes even painful to watch.
Well, like, at the end, I feel like it becomes like a public service announcement for like anti-human trafficking, and that's why we're not stealing the money, because the money can go to.
Oh yeah, like that stuff is funny because that's clearly a remnant of the original serious version. I mean, like, there's a scene where one of the Lawrences is like playing a cowboy, and he's like doing a voice and making sound effects, and it's like way over the top, and it's like, no, I don't want you to be in on the joke. It's much funnier.
Right. I want you to be like, this is a serious film your brother has put together. And
when you're not in on the joke and you're taking it seriously and it's just bad and stupid. And like one of the things that we had a lot of fun with in the Honest trailer that is throughout is nobody who's making the movie is really paying attention to space. Like obviously it was written like the script, they weren't thinking about the physics of a plane. So there's a lot of like, well, these two guys are going to sneak off and have a quiet secret conversation about their covert plans. And it's like, but you're in a plane. There's just nowhere for them to go. So it'd be like they'll pull like a curtain and be like, "Hey, okay, now we're gonna hijack the plane." It's like they can hear that's just a curtain, sir. And like there's moments like that are so great. And it's like, why did you have to ruin it by being self-aware and jokey? Like that sucks.
Right. Leave it to the middle brother to ruin it for everyone is really what it boils down to. Because the cowboy one is
I
the
don't
middle
want to
brother.
single one Lawrence out for blame. We're not here to cause a wedge in the Lawrence family.
No, never, because they're big listeners of Reels Like the First Time.
Obviously.
So
I mean, I do feel like part of me is like, maybe they listen to every podcast that's specifically about Money Plane. Who knows? If I had made Money Plane, I would listen when people made podcasts about Money Plane.
Absolutely. This was the wildest less than 90-minute ride I have ever been
not even close.
On.
It's like 80. It doesn't even break the 80 barrier, I don't think.
It doesn't. It is very and of course, there's questions like, can you actually shoot a gun on a plane? I don't think you can. I think with like the pressurized air, a spark would like
I have to feel like it's 2023. By now, we must have figured out a way, at least once. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I'm not saying everybody go test this theory out, but I don't know. By now, I feel like one time you could probably fire a gun and it'll ping around. They figured out some kind of thing. Come on. They've had a long time to figure it out. That'd be a long time if they still haven't figured it out.
It would be. The
like
science
James
should have
Bond
by
was
now.
doing, like, where you can't fire a gun in a plane. Like, that's like 60 years ago now.
Technology's gotten way better.
Come on, engineers. Way more precise. What are you doing?
But I don't know what hasn't gotten precise and what they clearly did not plan for was Edge running into a co-pilot as he is going to control the cockpit. Which
that's another
5 times
unintentionally funny, by which I mean brilliant thing in the movie is the set was not designed with the size of Adam Copeland in mind. He's twice the size of a normal guy, but they've got him in a very condensed claustrophobic cockpit set for most of the film. So he's knocking into stuff constantly, and it's very funny. And that's the kind of stuff I mean, that's what you want from a Money Plane. You want a guy unintentionally knocking his head into the set because they didn't plan for how big he was. You don't want, you know, hey, I'm a cowboy. That's not too far. I don't like that.
It's not fun. I think I had messaged my friend who was very jealous that I got to experience Money Plane for the first time, he had stated. But he was also the person who helped me experience the Jean-Claude Van Damme directorial debut of The Quest for the first time. And I remember texting him as I'm watching this scene unfold where they're all standing around like the crate and Edge is like going through the plan for the heist on the Money Plane, and how much bigger he is and older looking he is than the rest of his crew. And I said verbatim to my friend, why is this scene giving me Jean-Claude Van Damme and The Quest opening scene vibes where he's like a pauper in the city with a bunch of children?
But yeah, I feel like Jean-Claude Van Damme never quite fits the movie he's in. It's always like, you know, this whole group of people are like, and here's average Joe American Jean-Claude Van Damme. And he's like, hello, my name is Philip. I am from Kentucky. You know, it's always, he's never like of a piece with his surroundings. He's always just like, and then in the middle of this town, Jean-Claude Van Damme. And he's just like fully formed Jean-Claude Van Damme, exactly the same as like always. I guess Hard Target. They're just like, he's from the bayou. He's, He's a Creole. That's why he talks that way, folks.
That's why he talks that way.
It's
Oh
yeah, he's
man, and
one of the 4 guys in Louisiana who still has that
yeah,
accent.
who still sounds like he's
Like, hello, it's
Austrian.
like
Makes total
from
sense.
Belgium. It's the same. It's the exact same.
that old dead language,
Yeah,
Belgian Creole.
Nolans and Brussels. It's identical. It's ridiculous. But yeah, but
Ridiculous.
I think that's a funny thing about Money Plane. As long as you mentioned like the Edge's crew is it you could tell like all the main parts are stunt cast. It's like who was
Right.
available, like who was around, who wanted to do it. They must have called they called like 10 guys, and Thomas Jane said yes, and Denise Richards had an opening in her schedule, and like so all these parts are just like this is who was around that weekend. And it reminds me like Uwe Boll. Do you remember Uwe Boll, that German guy who made all the piece of shit video game movies? That's what he would
Yes.
do is he would plan the whole movie except casting like 4 roles. He would just hold 4 roles open. And then he would wait till like 2 weeks before they were ready to shoot, or 3 weeks. And then he would start calling for recently canceled productions. He would look at who was in movies that had been recently put into turnaround, and he would call them and be like, you got a couple weeks in your schedule? We're about to shoot this movie. And that's how we would get like Jason Statham in those things, or
It's
Burt
crazy.
Reynolds is a king in one of those movies. And that's how he was doing it, because he was just last minute. Burt Reynolds was in something else that didn't happen, and he had an opening in his schedule. And I guarantee you that's what this is. This is like Kelsey Grammer was in between. I don't know. He was on Boss or
Who
whatever,
knows? Yeah.
whatever he was shooting. And they were like, hey, we need you for 3 days. Can you come in at the end of this week?
Denise wanted to get away from filming of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It was in between her two
Right.
horse movies, and
Yes.
was like,
So.
sure. Which again, you're putting Denise Richards in, and she's the most vanilla. Like, come on, guys, it's time to go to bed. It's
Yeah, she's
like
not. You don't
the
really even need any. You don't even need that
you
whole
don't
role, really. Like it's totally gratuitous. Like oh, don't, honey, don't go take that one last job. Like gratuitous
right,
wife role. The Anne
but
Heche
she's
Donnie
like
Brasco role, where it's like, yeah, what are you missing,
fourth.
your kids?
She's like fourth or fifth build, at least on like the IMDb of it. Like she's one of like the top names that's
And
in this
yeah,
movie, and she's here for
it
like
was like we need a few people we could put on the box, we could put on the poster, we can advertise
yeah,
as are in this movie, because the Lawrences, to their credit, the Lawrences recognize that just the Lawrences they're not, that's not going to sell
it's
a
not
movie.
enough. No.
So
Maybe if
yeah,
they made it in like 1999 it would have, but then Andy Lawrence would have been like 10 years old and definitely
right.
not
And the
directing
fascinating
yet.
thing too, Thomas Jane is another fascinating case, because we sort of still think of him as like a guy who's in real
Yeah.
movies and TV shows, but he's got this incredibly vast career of doing these kinds of movies, like direct to VOD, like Garbage, like stuff that's sort of pretending to be like another genre or franchise, or just like a lot of random stuff. Uh, yeah, he popped
Right.
up in a lot of those movies. Like there was that. I did a video about these before we knew that Bruce Willis was very sadly, sick,
Right.
when he was just doing 8 VOD movies every year. Thomas Jane's in a whole bunch of those. Like there's a bunch of, and I don't believe Thomas Jane is sick. I don't know what his excuse is.
Yeah. He's like, I just want a
He likes to
paycheck.
work. Yeah,
Like,
just enjoys the
just
work. I don't know.
good for him.
To
Yeah,
his credit, he's
this
very weird in this. Like he's not doing. He's having
very.
fun with it. Makes it his own thing. He doesn't just. He's not on
And it's one of those
autopilot.
things I feel like kind of like what you just said about like Kelsey Grammer with Thomas Jane. He's like taking this role and having fun with it. He's not taking himself like I don't feel like he's taking himself that seriously.
Well, he's actually bringing a performance. He's not just like
Right.
like he's not just showing up and reading his lines. He's like acting. He's really, you're paying him
Yeah.
for 3 days or 5 days. He's gonna try his best, and I admire that, because a lot of these, if you watch a lot of these movies, as I have, sometimes for work, sometimes just to watch them, it a lot of actors will do them, but kind of fall into sort of like laid back cavalier about bringing an original performance every time. And so sometimes you'll watch them and
Right.
then it's like a total pro. I watched one. Who else was in this? I'm blanking on the actual star. But the bad guy was Vincent D'Onofrio for whatever reason. And
Okay.
he was doing an accent and he was doing like character ticks. And it was like, if you told me he studied for 6 months to prepare for this role, is like, bad guy in a direct to VOD crime thriller, he like really brought it as if he was making a movie with, an A-list director. And you got to
Right.
admire that, I think.
You do. I do. Look,
Professionalism.
people are doing things. I'm not going to say that making a movie is easy. It seems like it is very, very hard work.
It's definitely
No
hard. Even
matter how
Money
high
Plane, I'm
or
sure,
low the
was
budget is.
difficult. Even Money Plane, I'm
Yeah.
sure, was difficult.
Absolutely. And I think, because again, when you read it on Wikipedia, it's true. That's like the subline for the subtitle for like, our show, because everything I do is on Wikipedia. I'm not gonna lie. I did have to go back and reread the plot because all I remember from watching this movie is how wild of twists and turns it takes, where like I don't even think it knew what its own story was for part of it.
And it's
But
all kind of unnecessary. Like it doesn't. It's a lot of busyness that doesn't really get you,
yeah,
and it doesn't really add up to much. Like by the end, like
anything.
you could cut
There's
out a
no
lot of the complexity. All the stuff with the paintings. You don't really need anything with the paintings.
Right, and it comes around to, like, it's just absurdity, but it when I read what I read on Wikipedia with Andrew Lawrence and him making this movie is it kinda makes sense how it feels very clustered and jumped around because that's how he had to film it, like, they were according to the Wikipedia page, like, they were still building the plane that they were doing, like, the set piece that they were doing all of this filming on while they were filming the movie, so he never knew which thing they were going to be doing next. So as
That's not a very good way to
jumbled
make a
and
movie.
it's not a very good way to make a
You
movie.
should probably figure out your sets before you start filming. That's the thing. It's usually
Agreed.
the right order in which to do it.
Agreed, which is probably why it's again the jumbledness of it and like how all over the place things go just it makes sense why it feels like a mess because it was
I think
apparently filmed like a mess.
I think we have not yet. It's been a half hour, and we have not yet broached what I think is the biggest problem with Money Plane as a movie. So I think we should. I think we should dive into that.
Is this the fact that there's crypto on the plane?
No, there's $1 billion in crypto on the plane, which doesn't make. I don't. Crypto doesn't. It's not in a place. That's the whole point of the crypto.
Wait a minute.
Is
The
that
whole point of crypto.
it's
Yeah.
in your wallet. It's virtual. But anyway, we'll get back to the $1 billion in crypto. I feel like nobody who was involved on any creative level with this movie has ever gambled before. And the whole movie is about a casino in the air. And it just feels like at some point they probably should have talked to a gambler or somebody who understands betting or how bets work or what gamblers are into or how anything associated with gambling or a casino might play out. Because none of the betting, you would think the whole premise of the movie, when you're pitching Money Plane, when you're selling me as an audience member on the experience.
Yeah.
Kelsey Grammer's the bad guy. We got the Edge wrestler. Great. All good. Heist in the air, whatever. It's the casino in the air, illegal black market casino in the air.
Right.
That's the whole pit. That's what's unique about this movie. Oh, you're here. The title is Money Plane. Well, what is the Money Plane? Oh, it's this elite covert casino for the world's craziest gamblers. And that, like, oh, that's tantalizing. What kind of bets happen on the Money Plane?
You want to bet on a man fucking an alligator?
Well, I'm glad you brought
Money
that
Plane.
up. Allison, I'm glad you brought that up. Because I think that not only a very memorable line from the film, but an exemplar of how none of the wagering actually makes sense. Because what is the bet? What am I betting on? Is it that the man is going to complete the sex act? Is it that he's going to attempt it at all, or is he going to chicken out? Is he going to survive? Is the alligator going to enjoy it? I mean, what are we talking about here? What is the wager? None of it. Like, there's another part where a guy, I think it's like a guy cutting off his arm is the bet. It's like,
Yeah, cuts off someone
that's
else's arm.
not a bet. That's a dare. And a dare and a bet are not the same thing.
Very different things.
You make money on it. If I dare you money to do something and then you do it, you make money. I don't make money. That's how a dare works. I think they confused betting with dares. And it's like, actually the money plate is a dare casino. I don't know what it is. I don't understand how anyone bets on this.
The man versus Cobra. Like, what are we betting on, man versus Cobra? Or the piranhas, like they throw a guy.
Well, right, but it's like, okay, if you were going to say, okay, we're going to stage a man versus Cobra fight, and then we're going to have betting, theoretically, okay, but then you would be like, well, what's the line? You know, what are the odds? What kind of action am I looking at here? And that's where the fun of it would come from, is like, well, what kind of wagers would you have? You would think about the details, and the more richly detailed you could make that world to make me believe that there really was this money plane and people were really, that's what would make the movie work. And it's kind of like they don't even bother. The betting itself seems like almost an afterthought, and they didn't put any, but that's the whole movie. That should be the whole movie.
That's literally like 2/3 of the movie is us watching people bet
or like on nonsense. And then the big centerpiece is Texas Hold'em. Why would I go on a money play? I could go to any casino in the fucking world and play Texas Hold'em.
Right. And they have high rollers tables just for that reason.
And
or like, you could
go see a show and have a nice buffet, you know? Like, I could go to a steakhouse.
Also, if you're trying to risk your life doing it, pretty sure all of these people have connections to the mob. Like, I think Ivan is like part of like the Russian syndicate.
Yeah, people are being shot on the money play. Why? You would just go to Vegas. Why? What do you do? You would to play Texas Hold'em. I made a loud, angry sound when they played Texas Hold'em. I'm like, the implicit promise of money plane is that you're going into the air because you're going to do some kind of gambling that's like so crazy. It's international waters level fucking action.
Right. Betting on a man fucking an alligator, whatever that means. Like, that's what I want to see.
Literally, my uncle in his retirement community is playing Texas Hold'em. You don't need to go into international waters for that.
No.
Unbelievable.
Or being stupid and playing Russian roulette. Like, that's the other one.
That also doesn't make any sense at all. The whole thing about Russian roulette is like, well, this is just not even thought out at all. What's happening?
And the way that he just goes, I can't lose, and like shoots himself, and then the way that he just has his legs in the air and they're just shaking.
Yeah, like that's what I mean where they're really going over the top, where it's almost like a Zucker Abrams, like a airplane movie at that point.
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
Oh, absolutely.
This is gone. This is totally off the rails now.
It's so off theirs. I watched the Honest trailer for it today because I wanted to make sure that was the most fresh in my head, which was absolutely fantastic, by the way. The most amazing.
That was a fun
piece of that's hilarious. And I think one of my favorite moments from it that I didn't even realize while watching the movie, but then all of a sudden it hit me, is how much Joey Lawrence is talking to the camera. And that hair. The hair plugs. What is up with that hair?
So much of the movie. That's the thing. Like, because I joked about money planes so much on Twitter and Kelsey Grammer, and I made it kind of a running gag. And so a lot of people were like, and a lot of people, some people, I don't mean to make it sound like it was like a nationwide phenomenon, like a few people watched it and were like, hey, I'm going to watch Money Plane, you know, and it was like,
did you apologize?
Well, I'm just like, I can't, because a lot of the movie is boring. A lot of the movie is just like what you're saying, like Joey Lawrence talking, explaining these dumb bets, or like there's a lot of I call them like anime explanations. You know, like an anime, it's always like we gotta have like 30 minutes where the characters just explain all the rules of the world to you.
Over
Like,
and over again.
right, like, well, this is here's how the magic works. So you got to get your spell book, and then you go here, and this is the academy, and these are the 3 classes, and don't join that group, and we don't know what's behind that door. You know, and it's like I
Right.
don't mean listen, I like anime. I'm not trying to knock it, but there's that part. It's just part of the format of anime. And I feel like we get
Sure.
that in Money Play, where it's just like, and here's the
A lot.
plane, and here's the casino, and here's the sports book, and over here's where it's like, I don't need all of this. Like, this doesn't matter. Like, it just make it fun
Right.
and weird and crazy. Like, I thought the Money Plane experience would be a lot more fun and a lot less, yeah, like exposition talky. It's a lot of first screenplay
Seriously.
props. I think like the
It
Lawrences will get that by their third or fourth screenplay. They'll be racing through all
They'll
of that
get there.
material. Yeah.
It'll be there. They will get there. I see the potential that I literally screamed out loud when I saw who directed this. When it came up directed by Andrew Lawrence,
Hell
I
yeah.
very loudly and audibly went, "What?"
Yeah.
And then
Oh yeah.
instantly began messaging some friends, and I went, "Like the Andrew Lawrence, like of the Lawrence brothers,
Of the
Andrew Lawrence?" And they go,
Lawrences, yeah.
"Oh
They
yeah, it
they
is
went,
the
whoa.
entire family." Whoa. All of them, like, just and I feel like we also the unnecessary, like, labels of, like, where they are, like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
opening
There's a
scene,
lot. There's
art
a lot of
museum,
those. Yeah.
art museum, and I'm like, "What are we
In
doing?"
fairness,
What
it's like the least amount of set direction you could possibly do to suggest
Right.
art museum. Like they clearly did not get to go shoot at like the Getty. So they made like a
No.
living room. They hung a few paintings up strategically to make it like
Right.
resemble a gallery. Uh, but yes, they handily put art museum. So you're like, oh well, they're at the
Yeah.
art museum, the one,
Or
that one
money
art museum,
plane generic
undisclosed
a
location.
generic a
There's one.
generic airport.
Well, it brings up, it says Buddy Plate, undisclosed location. It's like, well, not to you. You're the movie. You know where it is.
Right.
You could tell us if you wanted to. We're not, I don't know
One
who you're talking to. Like, we're not, we don't get the classified report. We're the audience. We know everything.
Yeah, like, we need to know where you're at, like,
We're
where are we
hovering
going? Like
above the airport right now. We're magic. You can tell us. I get that Edge
exactly.
doesn't know, but we are supposed to know.
Or, like, Joey Lawrence is like, "Let's go into the casino," and then all of a sudden it says Money Playing Casino, like, he
Casino.
didn't just explain.
That's the part that explicitly feels very much like an anime or like it's honestly like a JRPG. It's like how it would be if you were playing
Right,
Persona 5, where you go and it's like casino, main floor. Like I don't have to
right.
navigate this. You don't need to give me the map. I'm not gonna come here to do my saves and go to the store and buy more refreshments. Like we're gonna come here one more time in the whole fucking movie. It's a plane. I don't know. They're gonna go back and forth. Where you go?
It's
I
insane,
recently we
and,
did
like
Snakes on a Plane recently on Honest Trailers, and they kind of do the same thing
oh,
where there's a lot of scenes
yeah,
where they're trying to like give you the geography of the plane, and you're like, you really don't have to work this hard. It's a
yeah,
plane.
yeah, yeah,
I'll figure it out. There's like 3 parts, and they're all full of snakes, so it's really not. You don't even need to
right,
think that much. But there's a lot of even that line like, okay, we got to put a barrier between us and the snakes. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that maneuvering,
yeah.
a lot of geography. Yeah.
Right, right. I Snakes on a Plane, I have to say this was one of those movies I went to go see it on, like, a Thursday night premiere kind of thing when
Oh,
it was
yeah, I
coming
saw
out, and I
Snakes
went
on a
with the I
Plane right away. I thought it was gonna be, like, super fun, and we were all gonna get into it,
well,
yeah.
we went to, like I went with, like, a bunch of friends, like, thinking, like, "Oh, this is gonna be terrible. It's Snakes on a Plane. There's no way this is" and I was one of those people that was like I was going, like, with the intent to make fun of it, and absolutely loved it. I thought it was the most fun movie I saw that entire summer
Wow.
because
It's
it's just
it's
it's I
terrible.
it's terrible, but I
I hate to
loved it.
break this to you, but it is terrible, and it's like it's terrible in that way where it's a little bit like it's a lot like this, where, like,
Sure.
70% of the movie is just bad. They thought they were making a
Yeah.
thriller, and it's just a shitty movie. But then you could tell at a certain point when they started to get memes, they got like a phone
Yeah.
call and it was like, oh my God, stop everything. The internet loves the movie, but they want it to be really dumb. So, like, Now
Right.
everything is campy and over the top and like put a lot of boobs in it and like put a
These
lot of dumb
these
jokes.
pheromones are gonna make them go crazy.
Right.
Is like the one.
And you could tell all the scenes that they shot after that because the tone is totally different from everything else. And
Right.
it's a bit like Money Plane where like there's a lot of it that's just like a thriller, but then every once in a while there'll just be a really goofy scene like they know they're like, we're just joking around, folks.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like speaking of like with that segue back into Money Plane, talk about a movie that is 80% setup with zero like good resolution.
Oh yeah, there's no
Like
payoff. There's no action
I
because they didn't really have any budget for action.
right.
There's one.
What was
There's
it you
one
guys
chase.
said
There's
in
like a van chase where they go over like a speed bump. Like that's the chase. It's like they shot the chase in like a parking lot where you teach your like
right.
teenage son to drive. Like it's that kind of
Right,
that
right.
level
How to
chase.
parallel park.
Yeah, but yeah.
Or
So you,
like how
yeah,
just suddenly just goes to like nighttime where like Andrew Lawrence is out being like the guy on the ground doing the shit job that he doesn't want to do. And like suddenly it's just like the coloring completely changes. And you're like, is it nighttime now? Like it was just daytime. Like I don't understand
yeah. They're shooting
where
like
this time
night
shift
for
happened.
later at night. I don't know. They're shooting day for shit. I don't know.
I feel like this is not the movie to nitpick. I feel like there's so much
No,
wrong with
they
it that
don't
like
really know what they're
nitpicking it is
bless
just
their hearts.
mean.
They tried their best. But
And
that's
you
what I
can
mean. If it
see
was
it.
like a little bit worse, if it was just like they had just really gone for it, total sincerity, not ever
Right.
played like too smart for the room, it could have been
Right.
glorious. And as it is, it's only like, well, it's kind of fun and God bless Kelsey Grammer. He's phenomenal.
And God bless Kelsey. Seriously, God bless Kelsey Grammer. What
Like
was
I'd
it
love
when
to
he
see him bring that character back as like he should be up against like Ethan Hunt. Like give him an Ethan
I
Hunt
want an
level
origin
nemesis.
story.
Yeah, I mean,
I want
you could put
I
the
want
Rumble
the
in like a
beginning.
mainstream film, like make him a Bond villain. It could really work. I could see Kelsey rising to that level, sure.
The Rumble. I can't like do you think he gave himself that nickname? Like, do you
No,
think
because
that
I
like
feel like it's on the nose goofy, so it has that Lawrence vibe of like, oh, call him Darius Emmanuel Grouch, man, and then
the
like
third?
right,
But make
like
sure it has to be the third
it's
because
too. I
he's a
feel like
villain.
Kelsey would be a little bit more subtle. Like he would have put more thought into it.
He would have. I
Like
just
what does
want
tossed
like
salads and scrambled eggs mean? I still don't know. We've been
I
noodling
still
on that
don't.
one for 30 years.
You are
Those aren't
you are
foods you make
not
together.
wrong. No, those are not foods you put
How is he
together
going to top
at
that? They're
all.
doing a new Frasier show for Paramount Plus.
I did hear that, which means I
How
probably should go back and watch Frasier because I've
how does he
never
top
actually
tossed
watched
salads and
it.
scrambled? What do you do for a new theme song once you've come out with tossed salads and scrambled eggs? Where do you go from there?
I don't know. You
I don't
gotta
know how you
like
top
come
that.
up with. I don't. He's just
Yeah.
gonna have to do it times two. He's gonna have to like make. He's gonna have to like remix it to like and bring like Nicki Minaj onto the record or
Yeah,
something, and
I
like
don't
have her.
know. I don't know what. I really don't know. It seems like there's no following that in the world.
There's there really isn't. I feel like we do. I mean, it would be. I just because of this podcast and the absurd questions that get asked. But I feel like we can't have this episode and and not ask you to rank. You got I mean again, if the Lawrence brothers are listening, I'm sorry, but I think if you had one, I need your Lawrence brothers ranking.
Lawrence, wow. I've got it. So we're talking. It's three Lawrences. We're talking Joey,
Right.
Matthew, and Andrew.
Yes.
I feel like, listen, no offense to Matthew, but he's the forgotten Lawrence. He's the Lawrence
He is the
on
forgotten Lawrence.
he's the Lawrence where it's like when you're doing Jonas's, you've got like Nick and Joe, and then like I know there's another. There's like he's that but for the Lawrences.
Gotcha.
Who's the third? I'm like, who is the third Jonas? It's Nick and
Kevin.
Joe. Kevin Jonas. See,
Kevin.
yeah. Oh
Kevin.
yeah. Matthew
The
is the
oldest.
Kevin Jonas of the Lawrences for
Of the
sure.
Lawrence
Oh my
brothers.
God, yes, exactly. And then number two, I'm gonna go Andrew, and it's like, look,
Sure.
man. I mean, I feel like Joey's got Blossom, Andrew's got Money Plane. They are neck and neck in terms of cultural significance at this point.
100%.
It's honestly hard to say in terms of like lifetime achievement, supporting role on Blossom, saying whoa, creating Money Plane. Scales they're right, they're back and forth. I'm slightly giving the edge to saying whoa on Blossom, but it's very slight, only because it was
Very slight.
such a weirdly big thing. Like I feel like we can't
Yeah.
even, like, in 2023 there is no analog for a sitcom catchphrase and the power that could have in the 80s and 90s to
100%.
dominate the culture. There's no one show. Like, as much as people loved, like White Lotus and Jennifer
Right.
Coolidge, like, even like these gays are trying to kill me, like, even that did not dominate the culture the way Joey Lawrence saying whoa on Blossom did for like a
No,
whole year.
no.
Like Mike
For sure.
Myers
Oh,
was doing it on
absolutely.
Saturday Night Live. Anyway,
Right.
so yeah, I don't think Money Plane is quite topped that yet, but I mean, there's always Money Plane
It
2. Like,
could.
who's to say? It could one day. It could one day rise to that
Sure.
level.
I sure hope there's a Money Plane too. One could only hope.
I mean, I can't
I started
imagine
was
Money Plane
like
has made them a lot of actual money. I don't think it's quite worth a
probably
billion in
not.
crypto at this
No.
point. Well, because it's not even like, I mean, I think it's still, you have to buy it, right? You have to rent it on VOD, right? It's not on any streaming platform.
It's on Hulu. Well, if you have like I have Hulu
It's on
Plus or
Hulu
whatever
now.
it is on Hulu. So I was able to watch it
Oh,
on
okay.
Hulu.
Back when I watched it, it was still on VOD. So that's nice to know. Okay, so they're making a link,
Yeah.
whatever that licensing deal was, they made a little bit from Hulu on that.
Good
That's
for
nice.
them is
Yeah.
all I gotta
Well,
say. I started looking back at things with the Lawrence brothers, like with them all
they had
together
a
or with one or
show,
two of
right? They
them.
did a sitcom
They
together.
did. It was
Right.
called
Yeah.
Brotherly Love,
Of
where they
course
were
it
the
was.
Roman brothers, but they all had their same first name. So you had
Why
Joey,
wouldn't they
Matthew,
just
and
be
Andy Roman.
okay, all right, fair enough. It's like
They,
when Tony Danza did Who's the Boss, and he had to be Tony Micelli for some reason. Like,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah. So they had Brotherly Love. And then I couldn't remember what it was, but I remember Andy and Joey had one of those Disney the Disney Channel movies, the original movies when those
oh
were like a really big
sure,
thing in the 90s.
yeah,
And
right.
it was
Disney Channel original
1990
movies, DComs. Yeah, we all know
the decoms. It was
DComs.
1999's Horse Sense, where Joey has to go and live with like his cousin, who like Andy's like the cousin, and like live on their farm to like learn
Oh,
how to.
he
He's
just
like
learns
this
about
little boy that needs to
horses.
learn responsibility.
I thought it was totally gonna be like he turns into a horse. Like, I was so ready.
No.
I was so ready for a fantastical. I was all set for a fantastical twist. It's like, oh no, it's like a horse movie. I guess
But
okay,
like
I get it. It's a girl. It was because young girls liked the Lawrences and they liked
we liked the
horses.
Lawrences and we liked horses.
Put them
It's
together,
exactly what that
magical
is.
combination. Yeah, exactly. All right, I get
It
it.
was 1999. Allison was living for it,
Yeah,
is all
dreamy,
I can say.
dreamy guy, horse. That's well, there you go.
100%.
There's
And I
that's
remember
that's a
the one
15-year
line
old nexus of interest right there.
the one line that I remember is like the first morning he wakes up to like go work on the ranch and like they're all waking up, he like walks down and he asks if there's any turkey bacon and there's just an old ranch hand at the table. He goes, "Turkeys don't make bacon." It's like
Right. Today, we've come so far. Turkey bacon, not even an old wizened grandpa type would be like, sure, who doesn't love turkey bacon? But
who doesn't love turkey
back
bacon?
then, it was woke, super woke to have turkey bacon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um Diving back into Money
Is
Plane,
there stuff left?
I
We have
there's
ground we
the
haven't
one thing
covered.
the one thing that I have to ask you is just because I ask on every episode to everybody for movies that we watch, if you had to list three favorite or three like top three moments for this movie, what would they be?
Well, I mean, like Kelsey Grammer only has maybe three great scenes. Like, he's not really in that much, but The movie
Right.
really comes alive when the rumble is there. I mean, goes out on such a high note in a hail of presumably in a hail of gunfire at his own home.
At his own home.
Off screen, never seen, but we can
Right.
presume. We can presume. So obviously those are all, I think, the best moments.
The video chat when he's like, we don't Jack's like, we don't use names. He's like, what should I call you? Captain and what, like corporal or
Yeah,
whatever it
it's
was.
just so ridiculous. And yeah, they're like, I mean, the introduction scene with Grammar is great. Yeah, everything with him, everything else
Yeah.
is sort of negligible, to be perfectly honest. Like he's the
Right.
reason to watch the movie. But
Absolutely. 100%.
there you go.
I do have to say, watching the friend or the person who's on the plane with him while he's while Edge is controlling the cockpit,
Right,
and his friend
he's
is
got
like
his
stuck
like
making
yeah, he's got his like his second in command lady, and then his like also helper guy, right?
yeah, who can't wait to get out of those heels. I loved her for that. That was fun.
Right.
Um but his friend, one of my favorite, watching all the absurd bets I was dying. I was like, this is the most insane thing I've ever seen in my
This is
entire
just
life. And just,
it's like, wait, get to a point you're like, do they really not get how betting works? Like you would think they never went to like a bachelor party at a casino. They never
guess not.
to Atlantic City. They didn't do Indian gaming where these guys are from. Like, all right, I would think by the time you get to be their age, you would have bet on enough things to where
You
you'd
would
at
have
least
thought.
get the format of what betting is like.
And how
They
it
don't
works.
seem to understand on a very fundamental level. On a very fundamental level. To the point that you would be like, you know what, fellas? Should we not write a movie about casino? Because none of us are really big bettors. They say write what you know. Should we write
And
about
clearly
being brothers who occasionally act, maybe not running a casino, seeing as we've never placed a bet before, apparently.
Oh man.
Do a research, go hang out at the Stardust. The Stardust is gone. Go hang out at the I don't know. Oh, geez, it's been a while. Go hang out at the Cosmo, man. Go at the Luxor.
Circus, New York,
I named
New York.
a few existing casinos, folks. I got there.
We get there eventually. Well, with
Stardust
all
is the big sports book, but when I was like 20, so like.
Speaking of which, you have Joey Lawrence. This is my last little like mind blown. So you have Joey Lawrence, who is the concierge, who's still explaining how to do everything, and then you have the bookie, who is also explaining how to do everything, but Joey Lawrence is also doing that job.
Also, honestly, like, no professional gambler, no no rich guy who gambles all the time, who's on the money plane. None of those guys want a concierge talking their ear off about explaining everything the whole time. They want to like smoke their cigar and hang out with Flutie or whatever. That's not fun. You don't want to go be lectured at the whole time about the amenities. Why would you do that? They didn't think out. That's exactly what I mean. They didn't think out why anyone would want to be on the money plane as opposed to like getting the whale treatment at like a really nice casino.
Right. Or like the way that like he very sternly says our crew are very respected or whatever. And he was like, so that's why we have these girls. And then like out of like the back, like a Mary Poppins bag, all of these hookers just walk through.
But again, you don't need to be on the money plane
to get this.
Just go to Nevada. There's a whole state that's designed for this. This is
for
what they
all
do.
Of these things. This is exactly
and
what
you're
they do.
On the ground. You can go to a restaurant, maybe.
You don't have to eat very clear airplane food. Like you can have
maybe Britney or Gaga's in town doing a few nights. You're not in a plane with a Lawrence. Like what?
You're not in a plane with a Lawrence. Well, as I end every show, I'm going to go into Letterboxd and I have to give it a star rating because that's what we do on here. And while I give it 5 stars for absolute absurdity, as a movie, it makes me put something in. So it won't let me just do no star. Well, I mean, I could. But I'm gonna be gracious and give it a half a star.
Oh, half a star is so low. That's mean. I would say a star and a half, and a full star is Kelsey Grammer. The half
A full star is,
star,
you're right. A full
everything.
star is Kelsey Grammer. We'll at least give it that one. Okay, you
Like
convinced me.
honestly,
1.5.
I feel strongly enough to the point where, like, if I was writing the Kelsey Grammer obit, obviously you're going to lead with Dr. Fraser Crane, iconic TV character across multiple shows. You get Sideshow Bob. You put some of the film, the movie work in there. They got extensive career voiceover besides even Sideshow Bob. Lots of voiceover. But I think at this point already, you would have to include Money Plane. You would have to at least mention the significance of Money Plane. Already an iconic Kelsey Grammer role.
Iconic Kelsey Grammer role. It will live in. It'll live in recency bias maybe, but probably within my top 10 Kelsey Grammer roles is where this will.
I don't think recency bias. I think it's as good as Down Periscope, folks. That's what I'm saying. If you see one Kelsey Grammer film this year,
let it be this one.
Let it be Money Plane. Or Down Periscope also not without its charms. Let's be honest. Lauren Holly's in that one. I think Dean Stockwell is in that one.
Oh yeah. Down Periscope is the year that that was a thing. That was the whole thing, like the 90s where they would put out one movie that had, you had Down Periscope, and then another movie company would put out McHale's Navy, which they were both on submarines,
right?
But both comedies. Yeah. So, it's right at the same time.
In the 90s, movies were just you could just release really dumb movies, and it was still people would just be like, all right. And real actors would be in them, Pure Luck with Danny Glover's in that, with Martin Short just being an idiot.
It's amazing.
Delightful. Or Gone Fishing. That's Danny Glover and Joe Pesci. They were in that one together.
What a duo.
Yeah, they did a couple of really stupid comedies together, Danny Glover and Joe Pesci. After Lethal Weapon,
right,
became a weird comic duo for a little while.
What a great comedic duo with Leo. I gotta love Leo Getz. Gone Fishing. I'll have to put that one on the list, but probably not for this show.
Oh my god. I think it's literally just two morons go fishing. That's the whole all you need to know. That's the movie. They're morons and they're on a fishing trip, but they're morons, so you can imagine
what kind of shenanigans they will get up to.
They've gone fishing.
Well, Lon, before we get out of here, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you, anything you got going on?
Well, find me on Twitter at LONS. That's the best place to do that. I'll probably be talking about Money Plane when you find me there. And you can also listen to my podcast, Binge Boys. Me and Hal Rudnick, every few weeks, we together we talk about all the streaming stuff that we've watched since the last time we spoke.
Awesome. And if you're watching here on YouTube, please be sure to like this video, leave your comments with your thoughts on Money Plane, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio, please be sure you have subscribed, rated, and reviewed. You can follow me on Twitter at Allison Salamone. You can follow the show as well at Reels Like Movies. And until next time, my friends, be safe. I'm going to go watch some more movies. See ya.